in the Bad Bunny album, again, one of the things that I loved is that he has one of the songs or a couple of the songs have what's called bolero music, which is what I used to call Joni music. And like I remember him like on the dial radio up in the mountains, like dialing it to like that radio station that would play the oldies of like his time. And him like he would dance like this, like he had this little like shuffle with his arms that he would
Right.
do. And and again, that's why it feels like this album was like a gift via Bad Bunny from him
Cute.
of like, I'm here and you're doing good, kid.
All right. Well, that's sweet.
And if we're manifesting
Sure.
for one of these points, Benito, come on the podcast.
Okay. All right. You pronounce his name correctly and everything. I don't know how many people do
Exactly.
that, so good for you. That should work out.
Thank you.
MeMeCherry presents a series of fortunate events. Fortunate events. Fortunate events. A series of fortunate events.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back, everybody, to the latest episode of the series of Fortunate Events, a podcast brought to you by who? It's still me, MeMeCherry, and I'm joined today by
Keith Malley, Keith and the girl. Nice to see you.
boom, boom, boom. And do we get to tell them that we're friends? Oh yeah, you told them last time that we're friends.
I would consider you a friend, and hello, friend. How you doing,
Hello,
pal?
friend.
Welcome back from vacation.
Exactly. Thank you, because you were the perfect person for me to recap half of my vacation. So you're listening to this right now. You might be watching it. You're going to be listening to me recap the first half of my trip and then come back for the second half that I will be recapping with my new production manager, Seamus Donahoe.
And he's fantastic. They're fantastic. Do you say he or they? Okay. They're fantastic. He's fantastic. And quite frankly, me personally, I don't give a fuck about the second half. But I do care about the first half of your vacation, and I want to hear all about it.
Valley.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna hear his show. Don't get me wrong, but it's not for me to give too much of a shit about. That's what he gets to do. But I'm
great.
all into the first half.
Sure.
You know, and he's got to tell himself he doesn't care about the first half because he doesn't have a choice. Because that's all me.
Actually, he should care about the first half because he's my new production manager and he should be listening to all of these and paying attention.
Oh, hey, buddy.
So, funny enough, on my notes, he's the first line because I recorded with him right before I left. He was on his probation period while I was gone. I gave him a list of things to do. We touched base. We checked on priorities, and he did such a great job that he still has the job. So he's still
all right.
He's officially
put up with
SOFE
bullshit.
Pods. No,
she doesn't put up with bullshit. So good for you. All right.
Yes. So shout out Seamus. You're officially SOFE Pod's new production manager. Can't wait to see all the magic that we made. So I record with him. We finish. I pack up. I get to the airport. We have a very long flight day, and I land in Puerto Rico. And I had the first moment.
First of all, let me tell you how exciting this is. I don't drink, but can we make this a drinking game where every time
I say Puerto Rico,
any of it, what's that drink you make?
Coquito.
I love it. I love it so much. It's like when I would see, Spanish news somehow and blah, 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 Statue of Liberty. Blah, blah, blah. It's kind of like that, but in reverse. And it's the funniest fucking thing. I don't care if it makes me seem like a child. I love it. And I can you hear this bell?
Kind of. It sounded like more like a thud.
Oh, okay. Well, just assume I get off every time you do that. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Maybe just go, ugh.
Well, I just meant excited, but
okay. So I was taking notes purposefully because I knew that we were going to record a recap. So I kept taking notes throughout the whole time. Oh, and also shout out Bad Bunny, aka Benito, who basically gave me a musical gift like from my grandfather in heaven. If there is a heaven, my grandfather sent it through him, and he gave it to me the day that I was coming on the flight. And as soon as I landed in Puerto Rico, I could hear people singing it. It was playing everywhere. The fact that Bad Bunny made a salsa song go #1 on
Did
all
you
the
say
musical charts.
salsa?
Yes, as in the music, not the food.
Yeah, how do you pronounce it again?
Salsa.
Yeah, even that's fun. I love it. Okay, go ahead.
Hold on.
The drink, right?
So the fact that he made an album that has not only reggaeton, it has salsa.
Reggaeton even. Oh my God. Okay.
It has salsa, it has bomba, it has plena, it has bolero, it has like what I would call Joni music, like the music that my grandfather used to listen to when I was a kid in the mountains. And that Bad Bunny made it like cool and modern, and that like these kids are basically singing bomba and plena songs. It's just a beautiful thing. He announced his residency in Puerto Rico. He's basically gonna he did partner up with these hotels to create these packages. They've already sold out over 30,000 nights in hotels in Puerto Rico. Long story short, Bad Bunny is like an angel to Puerto Rico right now. If he ran for governor right now, he would win. And Puerto Rico has been through a lot in my lifetime. I'm 45 years old, and I was actually talking about it with my mom. And I was like, oh, kind of like, maybe tinfoil hat, conspiracy theorying of like, the big man keeping Puerto Rico down to like buy cheap land someday. And she was like,
you mean natural disasters?
Well, it's more than that. And so we talked about it. And so she was like, well, when you think about it, back in the 90s was like the first hit because there was like government subsidies for pharmaceutical companies to build their production companies in Puerto Rico. And it brought in an influx of money and jobs. But once the government subsidy was done, the companies uprooted and left. And that was like the first big hit economically that Puerto Rico took. Then it was the 2008 subprime mortgage crisis. That also hit Puerto Rico really hard. Then they started having earthquakes right before the back-to-back hurricanes. So there was a year there that, yes, the natural disasters were like insane. It was earthquakes, back-to-back hurricanes, then Trump, because then there was a lot more neglect. And then under Trump, the electric grid got sold off to the Canadian company. The electric grid has never fully recovered since the storms. And then COVID. And so it's just been like one thing after another, after another, after another. And then like local politics are like super, corrupt and stuff like that. And so it's just, they've had a hard time of it for a long time. Now I say all that to say that they're theorizing.
I'm sorry, does your family still have Trump's paper towels that he threw out, or are they long gone?
Unfortunately, my grandfather died after the storms. And my other family
unrelated, right?
Yes and no. I notch him up to the neglect that happened to the island post storms. I feel like because he was living in a very remote part of the island that, fast forward, we'll get to it, it still has not recovered. And I don't want to start crying now. We'll get there. So I notch him up to one of the deaths of the hurricanes. It was a delayed death. He had a stroke after the hurricanes. When he went back, we evacuated him out of the island after the hurricanes because it just was really bad down there. And then he went back a few months later.
Do you think he came back, saw all the damage, and it really physically gave him a stroke?
Yeah, he was like one of the healthiest people that I've ever met. I called him the Puerto Rican Jack LaLanne. And and so then he had a stroke and unfortunately had to be put into an old folks home. And it was shocking. Like I remember when I went in 2019, because we knew that he was like, on his way out, I went to go say goodbye to him and he looked like a little bird and like not the man that I remembered. Like he was the closest thing to a superhero that I'd ever known. He used to dive from the 3rd floor roof head first into the pool, and then would be in one breath would swim from one end to the other, which is basically an Olympic sized pool. And like that was his party trick. And so to me, he was like a superhero. Anyways, this trip was a big part also of me trying to go back and see if like I wanted to keep his legacy alive, his dream alive. Again, we'll get there.
Is that where you were born?
I was born in Puerto Rico. I was born in San Juan, Puerto Rico. We drove by the hospital, me and my mom, and she pointed it out.
I know San Juan. Yeah, I was there once.
Do you know the coque?
I saw all the fucking damage that's still there.
Yes.
That was still there
Yeah.
not too long ago.
Is.
It's horrible.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they were 95% of the island was dark this New Year's Eve.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So, okay. So, we'll start at the beginning. So, I'm on the airplane. I'm listening to Bad Bunny. I'm feeling all the feels. The plane lands and I call an Uber. Thank goodness they have Uber over there. And so a lady picks me up and we have like an hour drive to the first resort that I'm staying at. I stayed at two different places. And
Okay.
so on the way there, we're talking and it was like the first moment that I was like, wow, I had a bit. Do you remember the movie Sliding Doors?
Yeah, like what would happen if she made it in the subway and vice versa.
Exactly. And so this woman is like, for an hour, she's telling me basically like how much she hates her husband. But at the end, it's like, but I love him. And,
Right.
but it's one of these that like, oh, she met him when she was 14. And like, that's the only man that she's ever been with.
Mm.
And I had this moment that like, I remember before I moved to California with my mom, I spent a summer in Puerto Rico. Ding.
Thank you. We're back. I got nervous when you were saying it normal. I'm like, do you even respect the place?
So I spent the summer in Puerto Rico right before I moved to California. I thought I was going to move back and live with my grandfather. Part of it was because I had like a puppy love crush. And I moved back to see if like, because we had lived in Washington. My mom had moved me away to Washington and I had stayed in touch with like this little boy in Puerto Rico. And so I'd moved back to see if like, I could date him or whatever. And he unfortunately died. Like he got murdered that summer. It was like a case of
The
mistaken
fuck?
identity.
What?
Yeah, that he was driving somebody else's car and they thought that he was the person that owned the car and the car got shot up and he died and he was like 16 years old. And
What the guy
so
do that owned the car? The autobus. What
automobile.
automobile? What
Who knows? I mean,
do you really not know? Like you don't have to say. Do you really not know?
who knows? Shit he
Okay.
wasn't supposed to be doing.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you do to
Rules.
yeah, what do you do to get your car shot up?
Okay,
And so
right. It can't be too many things.
you said fuck you to somebody.
Right.
So yeah, but although again, and at the time there was a lot of crime in Puerto Rico. And so and then my grandfather was just kind of like a wild man. And so I ended up moving to California to live with my mom when I was 15. And so I'm having this moment talking to this lady of like, what if Angel had survived, like had not died, right? And
Right.
like I had stayed in Puerto Rico and like gotten married to him and like, was on like my fourth child and was like miserable driving Uber. Like, I don't know. Not to say that she was miserable, but she, long story short, she was very sad that like her husband never would take her out on dates and that she was telling him that she didn't want to die. Literally, she's saying this, I don't want to die without seeing a concert. And that she
Oh.
was like, can we please go to a concert? And he's like, you can go with your friends.
Oh wow, shit.
But then at the end, but I love him.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, so I had a very like sliding doors moment. And then we pull up to, are you ready? Are you ready with the
Yeah.
ding?
Yes, go ahead. I'm ready.
We pull up to El Conquistador.
Oh my god, beautiful.
I think you should just say it with your mouth because you can't hear anything. Just go
Okay,
ding.
all right. Ding.
Yes. So we pull up to El Conquistador, which on a Tuesday, which is kind of
Right.
like an off night, they have more of like that hotel has more of like a local scene. Felt very much like, oh, what's the hotel in The Shining?
Oh, the Overrock. The Overrock.
Gesundheit. So
The Overlook Hotel, I believe.
yes. And so basically it's this giant, El Conquistador is this giant property that has like a really big golf course. So you drive through the golf course and then you just see this like looming building in the background that's been there since the 60s. And I check in and again there's not a lot of people in the hotel and it's huge. And so I'm walking through here, I'm like, oh my god, am I gonna have like a Shining moment? But it's okay, I'm gonna be okay. This is cool.
Mhm.
And then at that point it was like a lot of families and me. And I'm waiting for my mom. My mom flew in 2 days later, but I got to spend a couple days by myself and it was really nice. I, spent a lot of time by the pool and just, kind of like reconnecting with like my Puerto Rican tongue because I've been in California for so long. My Spanish does not sound Puerto Rican, but I always
Okay.
say that I just need to be in Puerto Rico for 1 week y empiezo a sonar como si soy de Puerto Rico, bien rápido.
She's back. You're back. Don't worry.
So yes, I was like slowly breaking my tongue to sound more Puerto Rican again and not
Right.
Mexican. So we have the giant resort. I'm staying there, and the only thing that was a little sad was in Puerto Rico, there's a lot of stray dogs. They call them satos, and it's like a
Okay.
big problem, like stray animals in general. And so I'm like walking my tiny little dog. I'm like just barely leaving the resort, getting ready to like walk the golf course. And all of a sudden, this like dog just comes running. And I literally just swooped her up off the ground and just
Mm.
started walking back. And they were nice. They were nice dogs. But then suddenly one becomes two, and they're both like jumping and like trying to nip at her in a very friendly way. But it's still just like breaks my heart because I want to save them, but I
How
can't.
does it happen? Are there not shelters like there are in America?
Shelters are not a thing, and dogs there are not a thing like they are here. Like it's very common for people to have dogs that like don't come in the house. Like it's like dogs are more for protection than like purse dogs, unless you're like
Okay.
in old San Juan and Condado, where like you have a lot more like American
Ding.
influence, really thing. So then you have like the people with the little purse dogs. But like,
Okay.
you know, me walking around with Honey, and especially, oh, that's another thing. It's another thing on the
Mhm.
flight from Florida to Puerto Rico. And it's interesting. Shout out Glamputee. Please check out the podcast with Glamputee. We talked about visible disabilities. And then, of course, if there's
Right.
visible disabilities, there's non visible disabilities, which is the
Mhm.
category I would fall in. And especially now that like I'm a little more fit, a little more cute, a little more confident, it doesn't, you see me, you don't see disability, right? But like I have
Mhm.
crippling anxiety, crippling depression. I'm doing well now. But a big part of that is because of my little dog that helps
Right.
me stay sane. And part of me having a service animal is that I get to board the plane first with people with disabilities, which usually is like old people and people in wheelchairs. Most of the time, flying through the continental US, people don't blink an eye. I get in line. My ticket says service animal. She says service animal. Cool. In Florida, the Puerto Rican motherfucker that had just been flirting with me while I was waiting for 4 hours at the gate suddenly is looking past me and like, yeah, it's not your turn yet. And I'm like, but I have a service animal. He's like, yeah, not your turn yet. And then another lady who's like a supervisor walks by and hears me say service animal. She looks at my ticket and then says, oh, do you want to get on board now with the wheelchairs? And I said, yes, please. I need a minute to get on with her. And she said, okay, just give me a minute. We'll get you on board. But it's just like,
What a
bro,
weirdo. Yeah.
I know. And so in Puerto Rico, it's very similar to that. That like we went to like a nice restaurant and I put her in a bag. She's quiet. She just stays in the corner. But like people were like giving me dirty looks like for like bringing a dog indoors. Like, how dare you?
I've seen you with your dog, and the dog, to be clear, is very unassuming. Like
Yeah.
it's not in anybody's way. It doesn't disturb anything.
Yeah, no, I know. So it was interesting. It was so yes. So that goes back to like why there's so many stray dogs. They don't see dogs like the culture there of animals is like animals are like food or como se dice, like they have a
That means how
purpose.
do you say? Right?
Ding. So yeah, so they're like, you know, they like it's the horse that pulls the cart or like the dog that guards the house, but
Right.
like and yeah, it's interesting. Like when we were at my mom's friend's house at one point, they used to have a dog. They no longer have a dog because the dog died. And so Honey's in the house and Honey's like walking around, and the husband of the couple is like feeding her and she's following him around. And then the wife was like, oh my God, this is a miracle. Our old dog was never even allowed in the house.
Oh my.
And here he is like giving her little treats and stuff,
Right.
but you know, and people can't say no to my dog. So yes, so stray dogs all over
They
the
don't
island.
pardon my French. They don't
No,
eat dogs
please.
there, right? Uh,
No, they're not that kind of island.
okay. All right. I was just watching Squid Game, and they keep calling each other dog as a negative thing, and so I
Yeah.
had to look it up, and it seems that they still eat dogs. And so I was wondering, so what countries do and what countries don't. But good. Okay, good.
Not that I know of.
Okay.
You never know what people in the
But
mountains do when they're desperate.
keep it close to you. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, speaking of food,
Yes. Oh my
that's
God.
one thing. That's one thing that was amazing,
Okay.
especially at El Conquistador Resort. Ding.
Yep. Yep. What kind of food? I want to hear you say them. A nice pie.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
First, I had a salad.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Then I had ropa vieja empanadillas.
Ding. Holy shit. Who has the time to pronounce these things? All right.
Then I had chillo frito,
What's that?
red snapper.
Red snapper? Okay.
Oh my god, like the best. They had so at El Conquistador.
There's got to be good seafood, right?
Oh my god, it's amazing. I kept saying like any chance that I could have the seafood, I kept saying, Mariana, have the fucking seafood. And so at El Conquistador, because it's a resort that's kind of like remote, you're like on the west of the island, right on the edge. You're not like it's not easy. Like you're basically eating on the property. But they had a ton of restaurants, which was amazing. They were all so good. But the best one was the Ballyhoo restaurant, shout out, the one right by the water. They had the best snapper, and it was fried and then it was served like the presentation. The snapper was like standing on its edge, curved, like it's like hi, like it's like
Okay.
like
Showing
flirting
off.
with you. Yeah.
Okay.
And then it's on a bed of wait, are you ready? Tostones.
Yes. What? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to talk over that.
Tostones.
Oh, nice.
Ding.
What's that? Toast?
No, tostones is my if there's one Puerto Rican food that I could eat for the rest of my life and only one,
Mm-hmm.
it would be tostones, and it's twice fried plantains. That's one thing about
Okay.
plantains. In the Caribbean, we cook plantain like 20,000 different ways. This is my favorite way of eating plantains. They have to be green. They have to be very, very green. So they're starchy. And then you take the plantain, you peel it, you cut it into like about inch sized, medallions.
Okay.
You fry them for a little bit. You take them out, you mash them, and they almost look like cookies, like plantain cookies. Then you fry them again, which is why they're twice fried plantains. And oh my God, it's like heaven. That's just heaven. And you can eat them by themselves. You can put seafood on them. You can put meat on them. You can sometimes mash them into like little cups, and then you make them into little tostones cups. I'm like salivating right now at the thought of it.
Do you find the food in California, are there places that can do this close? Or you're like, you guys can't do it like they do it?
It's not the same. It's not the
Yeah.
same. The empanadillas are not the same. The tostones are not the same. Like
Ding,
there's
ding,
just
ding.
certain things that are there's just certain things that are not the same. And like el pan sobao, like there's a specific bread that they make on the island. I don't know if it's the water. You know how it is with like New York pizza, and people
Sure.
think that it's the water. So I don't know if it's the water in Puerto Rico or what, but pan sobao, it's like and I don't be eating bread like that because my gym journey. But I was
Oh.
like, give me all the pan sobao.
Sure.
Oh, and I ate all the things, worked out every morning, and still lost a pound.
Good job. I saw your Instagram. You weren't fucking around. You were ready to eat again. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I'm like, oh,
Yes.
she's getting ready to eat this workout.
Yes.
I can tell. Good for you.
Yes. So yes, and it was beautiful. Oh, and that's another thing. You follow me on social media and you're like, Mimi, you're posting a lot of fitness content. Are you suddenly a fitness influencer? Not necessarily. I'm just trying to be
that we were all thinking that. We're like, are you trying to, is this a new career?
So I'll explain it to you, Keith Malley, because you'll
Thank you.
appreciate this. It's my strategy as a podcaster entrepreneur, because in January, the algorithm likes fitness content. And I
Oh,
still follow people on YouTube that I found last year because of their little fitness shorts and reels.
okay.
And so I said, if it worked for them, maybe it can work for me. Find me for the fitness, stay for the podcast.
Okay. There you
And it's
go.
working. My shorts on YouTube, it's like it's ridiculous how the percentage of views, how up they are on the fitness content versus the other stuff that I normally put.
If I put something on Instagram, maybe instead of like making a joke on Instagram, I tell the joke, but I'm doing push-ups and then put that up.
Yeah.
Right?
And,
Okay.
and hashtag fitness.
Okay.
It's working though. Like
Good.
my subscribers are coming up on YouTube because I do have a goal this year to get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, which
Okay.
breaks down to 100 a month. Please, if you are following me on YouTube, subscribe, like. So yeah. Anyways, getting lost in the sauce. But I had a great time getting up in the morning for sunrise workouts by the pool. That felt very bougie. That felt very nice. That felt very like, I've made it. And of course, all the pervy dads were like watching me by the pool
Of
work
course.
out
Congrats.
while they're drinking their coffee and reading their newspapers. So then my mom got there, and it was, I had some anxiety because me and my mom, we have had an on and off stuff over the years, but you know, she's a nice lady and she's trying, and so she definitely made a big effort this time to like be kind and be nice, and you know,
Just
just
overbearing, or doesn't necessarily take your
no.
side when it comes to other family members?
That's a little bit closer there. And you know, we'll leave it there for the sake of, you
Okay,
know, copacetic. But she won't be upset with me saying this, you know, and you've joked about it that you're like, oh, latchkey kid, give it to me. I would rather not
sure.
have my parents there. But then you have that neglect care bear that, you know, you feel like you were neglected
Hmm.
your whole life. And we actually talked about the fact that I credit my drag mother, Mama Celeste, who you
Hmm.
love
God,
bringing up. Mama
God is
Mama
blessed.
Celeste, yes. Mama Celeste taught me boundaries. I think it's amazing that it took my drag mother, who's 13 years my junior, to teach me what boundaries are when I'm in my 40s.
Right.
And the fact that my mom acknowledged that she never knew about boundaries, and then she vocalized the fact that she probably never taught me because she didn't model them. I was able to tell her, yes, you should probably say thank you to my drag mom who actually taught them to me.
How do you like? What do you literally do when your mom says something and it's too much? Do you go
Um, I still
stop? No.
mask. I still mask for her a little bit in terms of like I put on a nice pretty face and I might just fall on the sword a little bit just for the sake of
Right.
like keeping things nice because I know that she's trying, you know what I mean? And so a big part of this trip was me going to go look at the property that my grandfather used to own, that I grew up on, because I have very beautiful memories of it. She does not. But again, we had very different relationships with my grandfather. She had a very overbearing dad. I had a super fun superhero grandfather.
Right.
And so, anyways, we're at a Conquistador. We have a great time. They have a private beach. We take the little boat over there. We go to the private beach. I like booked us a cabana. And that
Okay.
was nice too. It's nice to be at a place in life where I can treat my mom to nice things. I take her on the vacation. I pay for the dinners. I'm paying for everything, you know, because she took care of me for so long. And
Sure.
so it was nice to like do something nice for her.
Okay.
And so
Does she
it go,
complain about any of your choices? Uh,
no,
Okay, good.
and she's happy about the sobriety. So, you know, we talked
Sure.
about that.
Okay.
And she kept telling me how pretty I was and how nice I look and how I'm glowing and I look so much better. And, you know, she was just being very, very nice. And then
Good.
at some points, she was kind of like expressing her concern about Puerto Rico, just, you know, like, is it the right place for me to go back to? Is it safe? And then like the next day she would be like, I'm so sorry, I shouldn't put it down, I shouldn't put down your dream, let's really like explore this, you know, I'm sorry for
Okay.
being negative. But there's reality in that. And so now we get to like the the emotional part.
Hmm.
So we check out of El Conquistador, which is in Fajardo. Ding. And
What if half
we
these aren't real?
Can you imagine? I never, but I didn't actually go to Puerto Rico. It's just
Right.
it was all green screen.
Right.
So we check out of El Conquistador, and we oh actually before we check out of El Conquistador, I went to like the little, you know, boutique to last time I was in Puerto Rico, I got
That's
myself a
funny that
bikini.
boutique doesn't have an accent. Okay.
Boutique. Bueno, si
Right.
lo quieres decir como puertorriqueña, es boutique, tú
Ah,
sabes.
sí, 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 sí.
So I had to get myself my cute little Puerto Rican bikini. So we go to the boutique, and it was interesting, right? Every person that I saw, I would be like, how do you find the island? Like, how do you think things are? Like, I'm thinking about maybe coming back. And it was interesting. So that lady was like, fuck no, stay in the States. And
Right.
so I was like, oh, okay, tell me why. But it was interesting because she was like you know, she was in her 30s and talking about, you know, dating men in her 50 in their 50s because it's the only men that are like stable, and that like most men, and this is what I heard from all the women, that like the dating scene is very frustrating because it's like all a bunch of mama's boys, and like the only men that are like responsible are like the older men, which is not what I'm trying to get into. So again, it was very fact-finding
Hmm.
mission in a lot of ways.
Okay.
And so the big fact-finding part of the fact-finding mission was my mom taking me back to the property because it's a very rural property in the mountains. It's not like a proper address. It's like literally like a road marker and then like around the corner kind of a vibe.
Okay.
And it was interesting, right? And I wonder this if you feel this way when you went back to Somerset. Did things look smaller than you remembered? Like, did your house feel smaller than you remembered?
Yeah, I'm sure the house did. I would revisit even the school, and I'm like, this is crazy small. Yeah, the town's small, and everything seems so much. I'm from the country. Everything seems so backwoods too, where they're chewing their
Yeah.
mustaches that I didn't notice before, and I'm feeling like they're looking at me funny, like, "What are you doing back here? You've been citified. You know, are you mocking me somehow?" And I'm like, I'm just at the same diner we're all at.
That's a little bit how I felt.
Yeah.
And so, that day, of course, I decided to wear like the bright pink one of these, and me with my like extensions and my little bows and my
Right.
earrings. And we go to El Campo, which is like the country, right, of Puerto Rico.
Mhm.
And we keep winding our way up the road, and everything looks so small compared to the way that I remembered. And also, the roads, like some of these roads and some of these mountains are like literally like one lane roads that like you have to like pull to the side so like another car goes by, and people drive wild. And so it was like a little scary at times. And so we make it to the property, and it felt like a dollhouse, tiny. And it was so run down, and like the neighborhood was so run down, and there was like trash on the side of the road, and like grass had grown. Like we couldn't tell if like and you could see that the roof was still falling apart. Like it was completely abandoned. And like I couldn't tell if somebody was squatting there or not. So we got scared to like even get out of the car. Like I at first wanted to get out and like pull the gate open and like drive onto the property.
Right.
And once we pulled up, it looked so scary and so abandoned. I didn't want to get out of the car. And the most we did was like keep driving up a little bit to where I thought, I was like, I could have sworn there were like more little stores and like more things. Everything was like shut down,
Mm.
like run down, just so sad. I just started crying. And then at one point we had to get out the car to let the dog pee, and I could just see the few people driving by just staring at me, and I felt like a
That's
peacock that was
funny.
like asking to be hunted.
Is there
And
is there
so
anything offensive that San Juan obviously is a big vacation spot? Do you feel
yeah.
like, hey, assholes, this is, I don't know, this, you don't understand the history of this place, and it's not a necessarily a party town. Is there anything to that?
Well, that's a big part of Bad Bunny's new album, is talking
Yeah.
about that and talking about, the gringos taking over Puerto Rico. And he did like a small, like a mini movie kind of like thing for the music videos. And in one of them, it's like this older man that goes into a store, and they only talk to him in English. They won't talk to him in Spanish. He's asking for a quesito, ding,
All
something
right.
that and you've seen me bake quesitos. You've seen me bake quesitos on
Sure.
chat dozens of times. And they're telling him that now they only make them with vegan cheese, not the cream cheese. And then
Uh,
he's trying to pay in cash, and they're like, no, we only take Apple Pay. And
wow.
that like, it's, and that's happening little by little on the island. And there is a movement of Puerto Ricans like me that moved away that want to go back. And so that was part of the conversation. Like when I first went, was like, oh, do I try to get the land back from the bank? But once I saw how like desolate it was, and how abandoned it was, and like how isolated it was, it scared me off. Like that was not the vibe. Like trying to get that. And then I started, and I talked to my mom in the hospital. I'm in the hospital, in the hotel that night, and my grandfather was a big dreamer, but he was also a bit foolish. And he spent a lot of money that he didn't need to, chasing dreams that were like foolish dreams. And he didn't listen to people when they tried to tell him that. And so I was like, Mommy, am
Like
I,
what?
am I,
Like buying property or what?
yeah, well, trying to start businesses in the mountain that like had no business being businesses in the mountain, because nobody was going to
Gotcha.
go up there for it. And that
Okay.
was part of my idea too. I was like, oh, I'll start a B&B up here. And then my mom was like, who is going to come up here? And like, who is your audience? And like, just asking me those tough questions. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. And so then I was like, Mommy, am I chasing my grandfather's legacy to the point that I'm just going to be a fool like him? And let me maybe just learn and not chase a silly dream just for the sake of like, oh, his legacy, and like, would he actually even want me to do this? And she was like, well, he probably wouldn't want you to do it alone, because I would be like a sitting duck up there on the mountain by myself, and that like
Right.
news travels fast, and that like when he used to live there, people would still break in even though he was crazy and had a gun. And so she was worried about me, that like it wouldn't be safe for me to like try to do that.
Right.
And especially coming in with a bunch of money trying to redo the property, I make myself even more of a sitting duck because I show that I have money.
Obviously, he's dead. Do you talk to
Yeah.
him?
I
Do you
do.
literally talk out loud to him?
Yeah, I do. I when I swim at night, I look at the stars and I talk to him. We used to spend a lot of time at night on the hammock, and because it's in the mountains you can see all the stars. And like my mom saw UFOs when she was a teenager up there. It's like
Oh
it's
yeah.
beautiful, and it's like you see everything, you see the sky. And so when I see the
Are
Big
people
Dipper,
upset that literal aliens are taking over too?
I know, right? But yeah, I when I see the stars at night, I think about him. When I swim at night, I think about him. Going down there was a big part of him. I cried thinking about him. I hope he's proud of me. And then at one point I was talking to my mom, like, look at us. We grew up running these mountains barefoot and we made lives for ourselves. She is a tech founder. You know what I mean? I call her a digital 49er because she came to California in the 90s to be part of that first wave of Silicon Valley tech startups. And now I'm here working for redacted tech company,
Right.
kind of keeping the legacy alive. And again, that sliding doors moment. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
how easily I could just be that Uber driver that's like in a miserable marriage. And yeah, I mean, I'm single and like I don't have kids, but I live a pretty fucking fabulous life, yo.
Do you ever swim and you think he's watching you, so you kind of let him win?
He was always going to win anyways.
Okay. All right.
He trained swimmers. He trained
Oh
like
yeah.
Olympic swimmers. Yeah.
Oh shit. All right.
Yeah, yeah. And he was a bodybuilder and yeah, I mean, I think about him in the gym a lot.
Okay.
And like when I do all my workouts, I think about him a lot. When I was working out by the pool, I thought about him. Yeah, I thought about him a lot.
Okay.
Yeah. I think he keeps
Oh.
me safe.
Okay. Are you
So
sometimes
yeah.
like something stupid happens? You ever go like, where you at now? Or why am I
You-
literally lost somewhere? Where are you?
because I'm supposed to find myself in that
I see.
lost.
Well, they can quit testing us, right?
I know, right? Thanks, mom.
Yeah.
Next time you're lost in the airport, just yell at your mom. Just start yelling
Right,
things,
right.
mom.
Mom, you're in heaven. Point a direction or something. Make a mop fall and I'll walk that way.
Son, you were supposed to walk away from the mop, not
Right.
towards the mop.
Right. It gets confusing, these little hints they give us.
Yeah. So you're listening. This is where we do a pause in the story, come back for part two with Seamus. We will pick it up after we leave the property and we go to my mom's friend's house where my mom's friend was trying to make me break my 8 month sobriety. Stick around for that story.
Oh, mother of good God. Jesus Christ. The balls on these people. And
I know.
it's all, and yeah, not to jump ahead, but it's really about them.
Yeah.
Is it all right? How about this tease? Is
Do you
it
want to tease
about
it?
yeah, is it like, hey, if you're not drinking and I am, then I have a problem, so come on, break your sobriety. Like, is it more like that where it's not even about you having fun? It's about them not being a
it
shitbird.
it feels that way, and that's what my mom thought it was, because my mom also almost had to step in because so we walk in and here, well, I'll give this part of the story and I'll go
Okay.
over it again with Seamus and we'll go deeper. But we go to my mom's, and we saw a few of my mom's friends throughout the week. So this was like a set of friends, and they, live a very nice life. They're very successful, very comfortable, and very traveled, very cosmopolitan. And so we're coming over to their house because the husband's going to cook for us, and he cooks like these amazing meals. And every time we've gone over there before, it's like we eat, we drink, we're merry, right?
Mhm.
So we walk in the door and my mom comes with wine, obviously. And so he's like, oh, offering the wine. And mom was like, no, she's not drinking. And I'm like, yep, 8 months sober, ting. And everybody's like, oh, good for you, good for you. And then we sit down and then it's like, they finish the wine. He goes to give my mom another glass. He, of course, makes himself another cocktail because he's having cocktails, not wine.
Sure.
And then he's sitting down and you can see the cocktail hitting. And
Right.
then he's like, so Mariana, like, are you sure you don't want some orange juice with like a little splash or something? And I'm like, no, I don't.
Right.
And then he tried again.
You could just have splashes, right?
Yes, like very like that, very like that. And then, are you sure you don't want to?
Right.
It's like it's starting to get a little. And it got to the point that I was like, hey, family friend, I'm being very nice right now, but if you keep doing this, I'm not going to be so nice.
Agreed, right?
And then my
is it
mom was like,
is it
please stop.
right? And it is them being out of line, however you look at it. But
Yeah.
is Sawa a drinking culture? Like, is it
Yeah, in
offensive?
Puerto Rico
Yeah.
is very much, and that's part of the things that I had to like kind of make peace with. I mean, we were drinking at 15 because the legal drinking age in Puerto Rico is 18. And I remember drinking limoncillo, which came up in the algorithm now. I guess Bad Bunny must mention it in one of his songs because limoncillo is basically you take like the crystal light powder, right? And you get like the jug of water,
Okay.
and depending on who you ask, some of them it's half water, half liquor. Some of them it's just full liquor with the crystal light in it in a
Right.
jug of like water that you just drink it out of that. And like it's basically
That's a
like,
fancy name for this fucking backwards
limoncillo.
bullshit. Yeah.
I know. But yes, it's a huge drinking culture.
Okay.
I mean, Pitorro de Coco, which is one of the songs on the Bad Bunny album. I was like, "Mommy, what's Pitorro?" And she was like, "Oh, it's basically Puerto Rican moonshine." So it's drink. I mean, when we can get down a whole rabbit hole of like poor cultures where like alcohol and cigarettes is fed to it because it keeps them dumb
Sure.
and happy.
Yep.
So yeah.
All right.
But I had my virgin pina coladas and my virgin mojitos happily.
What's a virgin pina colada? Good. Pineapple
It's
and coconut. Okay. Okay.
blended together with a little bit of shredded coconut on top.
Okay. Okay. Good for you. Were
And I
you
still lost a pound.
were you tempted to drink, or were you like
I
it's just annoying
was.
that you keep asking?
Well, I kept telling him I had had an emotional day that day.
Okay.
And that I want on the way there, I was like, fuck. I was talking to my mom, like, this is the day, this is when, this is what makes me want to break. I don't want to break. I don't want to break. And that we had to tell him, like, please, especially not today. Like, don't
Right.
push me today. Like, especially not today. I've had enough of an emotional day as it is. And like at one point, he had walked away to the kitchen and I started crying because I was thinking about my grandfather. He literally came back, saw all because it's all women, saw me
Right.
crying. He turned around and just
Right, sure. Safety first. Yeah. Oh,
But
you
yeah,
guys got
and
this. Okay, bye.
yeah. And anyways, there's more to that day and more to that visit. So I'll get
Okay.
into it with Seamus. And then the rest of the trip, I'll get into it with Seamus. But yes, congratulations, Seamus. You still have the job.
Excellent.
Yes. And thank you, Keith Malley, for being such a good friend. Thank you for calling me on my birthday to say happy birthday. And
Congrats.
yeah, thank
How do
you.
you feel? How's the new you going so far?
Ooh, I love telling people, I love putting people on the spot when they're like, "Oh, your birthday, how old are you?" I'm like, "Guess."
Right. Yes. That is always a fun game.
It is for me because they always guess way low.
Okay. Right. I did guess 16, I think. Yes.
Yeah, no, 18. Hello.
Okay. Right. Sure.
But yeah, no, it's nice. People are like, I'm like, oh, it's your birthday. How old are you? I'm like, yes. And they're like, I'm like, I swear you won't offend me. And they're like, I'm like, I swear you won't offend me. And they're like, 37? And I'm like, 45.
Right. All right. Good.
And one of them was like, oh my God, I was thinking 40, but I figured I would young you down a little bit.
Right.
That's why I told them, I was like, you're not going to offend me.
Then they get too honest. They're like, I was going to say that.
Yeah. I thought 50.
Right. It was Keith and Girl co-host Kenda. Her dad would say that he's older than he is, and people would be like, "Oh, you look great for that age." He's like, "Right,
Yes.
thank you."
I know.
It's weird that people lie the other way, you know?
I should just start saying I'm 60.
Yeah, yeah. You look great. Work out, you know.
Sobriety.
Right.
But yes, I do joke. Well, now, okay. ADD brain. For the longest time, because I have almost always, been ages down when people ask me my age, I used to say it was not having a husband and not having kids. Now I look even better because of the sobriety.
Okay, there you go. Good for you.
Celeste just says that I'm drinking the blood of virgins. Come see, come saw.
Okay. All right.
Do you have any questions for me about the trip or anything that we said? Professional podcaster.
When's the next time you're going to go back?
Ooh, so I'm very tempted because while I was there, Benito, aka Bad Bunny, announced a residency. He's doing a concert residency. And so I'm very tempted to go back in September to go see him. But I have to remind myself that big events like that, are not my thing. Like they make me
Because they don't
anxious.
allow dogs, right? Do they? Honestly, could you
I
bring it into a
I
concert with a
could, but
dog?
it wouldn't be a good environment for her.
Okay.
Yeah, and like I've been to one of his concerts. It was actually the last concert I went to was when he was on tour for Un Verano Sin Ti. But I don't know. I do have a friend from the gym this morning that was like, I'll go with you. So I don't know if I go with somebody, I might be more down. But like by myself, the thought of being like in a coliseum by myself gives me anxiety. But
Sure.
I'm a little tempted to go back for that. If not, I want to go back soon. I think my birthday next year, I think I'm planning Hawaii. I think I want to go to Hawaii for my birthday next year.
Hawaii.
Yeah, Hawaii.
Well, you pronounce the apostrophe, huh? All right.
Yes, I pronounce it the right way.
Okay.
Or as they say, Hawaii. Ding.
They say that? They say that? I was there.
Yes. Yes.
I feel like an asshole now. I didn't know that. All right.
Yes, if you're actually saying it in the Hawaiian tongue, it's Hawaii. Um, but yeah, I want to go to Hawaii for
Okay.
my birthday next year. But I don't know. I'm tempted to maybe make it Puerto Rico again. So who knows?
Okay. All right.
I just don't want it to be another 5 years. That's all I know.
Oh, it's been that long? Okay.
Yeah, longer. 2019.
Oh no. Did you feel you were letting the country down?
No, I mean COVID, and
Sure.
stuff. And the last time I went was to like go say goodbye to my grandfather, and that was like really emotional. So,
Okay.
and then he was a part of this trip too,
Is
right?
that
Like
the
if
last time you saw him or he was already dead? How long ago did he die?
he died in 2019, a few
Okay.
weeks after we went to go see him.
Oh wow. Okay. Good for
Yeah,
you.
yeah. I have a picture of him holding his hand. I didn't want to take a full picture of him, but I didn't want to. But I have a picture of like me and his little hand, and that's how I remember. Like I have the date of like the last time I saw him, and it was
Okay.
March 19th, 2019.
That's good you can make him.
Yeah, yeah, he held in there. Yeah, I held his hand, I cried, I sang the song from Coco to him, the Remember Me. And
Hmm.
I told him that he could stop shadow boxing with death, that he had beat it enough times. He almost like he for real had so many close calls with death that like
Right.
I seriously told him, I was like, look, you survived so many times. It's okay. You can stop shadow boxing with her.
Does that mean like do you say like, hey, you can go? You can go now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
How do you tell somebody that?
Exactly like that. I said you can stop shadow boxing with death.
Wow. Okay.
You won. You won.
Goodbye. And he's like, I have something else to say. And you're like, I said goodbye.
No, he wasn't really saying much. He could like
Okay.
he wasn't really lucid. He only had very few moments of lucidity and he was very happy to see me. And there was one day that like it was so sad. Like the nursing home lady was like, "Oh yeah, this morning he knew you were coming," and he got so excited that he had like tired himself out by the time
Oh
that we
wow.
got there.
Like a dog, right? You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Yeah.
and yeah, and yeah, and that's what I'm saying. He was like a frail little bird. And I told him that he had the biggest swimming pool waiting for him on the other side, that he
Oh.
was going to be able to swim and swim. Oh, I'm gonna start crying. That he was going to be able to swim and swim as much as he wanted to. And yeah, I literally told him, you can stop shadow boxing death.
Do you
You
think they
won.
have pools in heaven and stuff?
I don't know if I'm much of a heaven person, but like wherever his energy is and his essence is, it's an infinity pool. It's the infinity
Hmm.
pool.
Okay. Like what if his
I would rather go to the infinity pool than heaven.
right. Well, what if like he's like, hey, I'm gonna do my party trick with these angels, and he's like, when the fuck is the edge of this fucking pool?
I
Oh
need a
god.
roof to jump off of, bitch.
Right. Right. Oh, that's
Yeah,
sweet.
and like he was a pool player. He loved to play pool and he was a
Mm,
pool shark basically. And the house rule was that if you lost, you had to jump into the pool no matter what you were wearing, but then he would always jump in after you because he was never going to make
okay.
you feel bad about that. And yeah, and I'll leave you with this in the Bad Bunny album again, one of the things that I loved is that he has one of the songs or a couple of the songs have what's called bolero music, which is what I used to call Joni music. And like I remember him like on the dial radio up in the mountains, like dialing it to like that radio station that would play the oldies of like his time. And him like he would dance like this, like he had this little like shuffle with his arms that he would
Right.
do. And again, that's why it feels like this album was like a gift via Bad Bunny from him
Cute.
of like, I'm here and you're doing good, kid.
All right. Well, that's sweet.
And if we're manifesting, for one of these points. Benito, come on the podcast.
Okay. All right. You pronounce his name correctly and everything. I don't know how many people do
Exactly.
that. So good for you. That should work out.
Thank you. All right, Keith Malley. Any last words? Keith Malley. Keith Malley. from
MeMeCherry. No, shout out to Seamus.
to
Congrats on your trip. And no, that's it. I'm happy to see you so happy.
Oh, thank you. All right. Well, this is when we say goodbye. Oh, wait. Adios.
Adios. Adios.
Are you suddenly speaking Japanese?
It's a fun way to talk. I'm trying to do it
Arigato.
with more words.
All right. We're going to say bye now.
All right.
Bye now.
Bye.
Thank you, Keith.
Thank you. Very fun.
MeMeCherry.